Nature is weird, and the Patagonian Mara is weird right alongside it. It's not enough that it's a crazy rabbit kangaroo deer, but it also has a form of communication that we can all agree is pretty gross. But when everything out there wants to steal your girl or eat her for lunch, you need to take drastic measures or you're in for a rough surprise here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Bienvenidos a Life, Death, and Taxonomy. Me llamo es Joe.
I don't know what you're saying. I'm Carlos.
Y hoy estamos hablando de un animal argentino con patas largas y un método de comunicación único.
That was impressive, but I don't think anybody's listening anymore.
Well, this is what I just said was we're talking about a Argentinian animal with long legs and a unique method of communication. And because it was Argentinian, I wanted to give a little Spanish speaking introduction.
You got to work on your Argentinian accent in Spanish.
Argentino.
But yeah, this is an interesting one. Brace yourselves, everyone. I think the beginning will be fine, but it's when we get to the major fact that I'll give a little bit of a warning.
Give a little bit of a whistle?
Nope. That was good. But yeah, we're talking about the Patagonian Mara, aka, well, this is what it's also called, not outside of my own nicknames. It's called the Patagonian Cavy, C-A-V-Y. The Patagonian hare, even though it's not a hare or a rabbit. Or the dillaby. It's like that's the other side of the world. That sounds like something that an Australian would call it. I got to see a man about a dillaby. But what we're going to call it here is the Patagonian Mara. Man, this is going to be hard to say. Patagonian Mara. Or Patty. I guess we can call him that. But I wanted to call it the chemical chimera, the reeking rodent, and you're in trouble, mister. It's not really a nickname, but something that I would say to it a lot.
Yeah, those are some interesting names. Some gross ones.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a teaser trailer for later.
Patagonian Cavy. I like it.
Do you?
No. Well, would you like to know what science calls it?
Nah, if we got time.
We do. It's in the kingdom Animalia. Let's get through that one real quick.
No suspense?
No suspense. It's
no
Animalia.
Fanfare?
It's an animal.
Okay, we got it.
Heard of those? Phylum Chordata. You need those to hop around.
Nope.
Unless you are a bug. And by bug, I mean insect.
Sure.
Subphylum, if you're into that. Vertebrata. I'm pretty sure that's like everything we talk about.
Almost everything, yeah. Class
Mammalia. We're getting into my neck of the woods.
Look at me doing a mammal here.
Yeah, right? They're great. Order, and this may come as a surprise, Rodentia.
Yeah, I would have thought it was Lagomorphia.
Yeah, because it looks like a Lagomorpha.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever a deer is.
Cervidae. Ah, we are learning from this podcast.
So order, Rodentia, family, Cavidae. Cavidae? 2 eyes in a row. What do I do with that? Who could say?
You one of those two things sounds right.
Yeah, Cavidae. Do I pronounce both vowels? Let's just move on to the genus, and then we don't have to think about it. Dolichotis? I think that CH is a hard C.
Delicatus?
This is delicatous. That's what the predators think about it.
Yep.
And then the species is Delicatus patagonum. There it is. There's your binomial name.
Delicatus is great. That's definitely... If I had thought about pronouncing it that way, I would have created another nickname or something out of it. If you've got for part of the Patagonian Mara's life, you have to censor it. So, Dolicatus Patagonian Mara.
It's not completely untrue. We'll get into that. So let's talk about what it looks like if you're driving. The Mara Patagonian style, developed as a species during a time when scientists believe South America was cut off by water. So there was no land bridge. There was no Panama. So, as we learned from the Dracula ant and from bearded men that live in the mountains, isolation often produces weirdos.
And manifestos.
Yeah, at least when it comes to the bearded man. Patagonia is a region in lower part of South America, in like Argentina.
A beautiful region.
Yeah.
That I have not seen yet.
We'll talk about the region in a little bit later. So there's a lot of weird animals there and weird fossils, like giant sloths and giant armadillos. So like a lot of those big, weird mammals that are in like the fossil record come from this area because it's a weird place.
Neat. I also
like a camel with a trunk.
What?
A camel with a trunk.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that called?
I forgot. I couldn't find out.
Camel W/trunk.
Yeah, that's it.
Camel feet featuring trunk.
That's probably a real thing. I wouldn't be surprised. Like artists.
Yeah,
the artist named Camel, joined by the artist named Trunk.
Trunks from Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Today, the Mara is mostly found in Argentina, like we said. So, in this case, this isolation produced an anatomical oddity.
I'll say.
Yeah. Just by looking...
It produced an anatomical oddity.
You said it. You said it.
I tried. That was hard.
Just by looking at them, you might assume they are a lanky rabbit or some sort of small deer. But they are not either one of those things. They have long faces with round snouts, sort of like a deer-esque.
I think it's like a rabbit's whole head.
Yeah,
placed on top of a small deer.
It does look like a hare. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a round, lean body with short brown fur, long, slender legs, and like toed feet that their shape is similar to hooves. Like if you look at them. If you don't look at them, it's still similar to hooves. They have wide nostrils, large eyes, and large rectangular ears. They're in the rodent family. They're not deers. They're not. We talked about rodentia. And if you look at like a capybara, which is also a large rodent, you could see the resemblance.
Yeah, but when you look at it, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The whole is rodent than the sum of its parts.
More rodent?
More rodent.
Okay.
Because its face is so lagomorphy. And then its body is so cervidae.
Yeah, I guess. Also, when you look at it move, it does sort of look like bunnies.
Yeah, it's very swift.
Yeah. That brings us to the part of the show where we get to talk about how big it is. Because how big could this thing be? We know, obviously, that the largest rodent is the capybara. But this thing looks like a small deer. Well, it's got to be somewhere in between. Luckily, there's just the best part of the show to explain how big it is.
Oh, lucky me.
Yeah. So today, the show is introduced by one of you, a listener. We have a special introduction by Mario, who is also...
my dad.
Yeah. He made this introduction, and Carlos. So he's contributed to this podcast a lot.
Some would say that without him, this wouldn't have even happened.
Right, yeah.
Without further ado,
the listener's favorite part of the show.
1, 2, 3.
Measure up. That's good stuff. That's a hearty intro.
Hearty,
yeah.
like a good breakfast.
Yeah, like a chunky soup.
Mm.
Okay, let's get right into length. They're 69 to 75 centimeters, or 27 to 30 inches. Let's call that a cool 2.5 feet. It's not exactly the middle. It's like 2.3, but whatever, for your purposes. 2.5 feet.
Then, doesn't bode well. Sounds like it's going to be a really, really big number.
How many Patagonian Maras go into the height of the Monumento a la Carta Magna y las Cuatro Regiones de Argentina, a.k.a. the monuments to the Carta Magna and 4 regions of Argentina, a.k.a. the Monumento de los Españoles. It's a monument in Argentina. Here's a hint. The monument was donated by the Spanish community in Argentina to show just solid sportsmanship and to commemorate Argentinian independence from Spain. It represents the 4 regions of Argentina, including the Andes, which are the mountains, the River Plate, which is the wetlands, the Pampas, which is the plains, and the Chaco, which is a semi-arid region. The building started in 1910 but was not completed until 1914 because the death of a project manager, then the death of the second project manager, then quarry workers striked? Who could say?
Stricken.
Yeah.
Struck.
And then there was a big old storm. So it was a 4-year project because of these delays.
What is it of? It's just a building?
No, it's a monument.
Sure.
It's a big statue.
Of what?
So, it's like a square obelisk. Or a squared obelisk. It's not a square, but it's rectangular, one might say.
That's
What's a long square called? Oh, yeah, a rectangle. And, there's statues depicting different people, and there's 4 main ones which represent the 4 regions.
And those are what? Reliefs in the rectangle?
They're like full statues on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah. Or near it, who could say?
You could.
Well, I could... There are reliefs in the statue, and there's things on top. I think there's 4 on top. Because I saw the monument as a whole, and then there was 4 JPEGs of them, of the 4 statues, and they all were, they looked by themselves. So I'm assuming they're either on top or around the statue.
40.
40 what?
40 Patagonian Mara lengths.
Would you like to show your work?
Yeah, it sounds like we cut right to it. 100 feet for this statue.
Okay.
And their 2.5 goes into 140 times.
The answer is 32 Maras.
Nice. I mean, I'm a little bit off, but still.
Yeah, that was a good guess for the... I didn't write down the exact height of the statue, but you were pretty much close to it.
So, because we recently did another statue... Oh, the last episode we did the communist statue.
Yeah.
So I got a good idea of what a decently sized monument would look like.
This one is a little bit more... This statue has a little bit more to do with the animal, because it's in the same country. The other one just had the word worker in it. And I wanted to teach you a thing about North Korea. All right, let's go to weight. They are 8 to 16 kilograms or 18 to 35 libs. So that's males to females. There's a little bit of a difference. Let's call that an even 26.5 pounds. How many Maras go into the weight of a Doggo Argentino? An Argentinian dog breed.
Really? Doggo?
Yeah. D-O-G-O.
Huh.
D-O-G-O Argentino. Here's a hint.
It sounds like you're just doing the worst Spanish.
Doggo, yeah.
Io Havo and a Doggo Argentino.
So here's a hint. The Doggo Argentinos were bred in 1928 for hunting large game like wild boar. The breed is a mix of several large dogs, including Great Danes and the now extinct Cordoba fighting dog.
4.
3.5.
I was like, okay, maybe if it's a big dog, we might have like an 80 to 100 pound dog here.
It is a 93 pound on the upper end. 93 pounds on the upper end.
Oh, you said 29
the
pounds.
The largest male would probably be close to 100 pounds.
Well, you said 29 pounds for the Patagonian Mara?
26.
26.
26 and a half.
Yeah, so a little bit. All right.
So that's it. You got it.
I did it.
Pretty close.
I won.
Yeah. In terms of the margin for error, I feel like those were like equally close.
Yeah. It wasn't astronomical.
Right.
Finally. Things are looking up.
Sometimes it's important to me to teach you a thing about the country. Sometimes I want to destroy you with astronomy.
Great. I'm glad that your motives are pure.
Let's move on to some fast facts. The fact is that this fast fact is the fact that our friend is fast.
Nice. First try.
So the Patagonian Mara has powerful legs. He's lanky. He's slender. And he's built for speed. He can run at about 29 kilometers per hour, also known as 18 miles per hour. Pretty decent for
a little guy.
Yeah. Here's the next the not as fast fact. In more ways than one, because it's not about speed and it's longer. They mate for life. Males follow females around wherever they go, lest she walk off and forget about them.
We'll talk more about that later.
Adults share a burrow. There can be one mating pair in a burrow, or they can share it with other mating pairs. So it's like Bachelor in Paradise or something, or Big Brother's house or whatever. I don't know what that is, but sure. So they keep young also in communal burrows, which are underground nurseries shared by several pups from different mothers. After digging the burrow, adults will never enter it again. They will deposit these pups into the burrow and then go off feeding, and then return. They'll call out to their pups. All the pups come out, and then they'll smell the one that's theirs. They'll be like, "This one smells like me. You can have some milk." And side note, pups are scruffy and adorable.
I didn't look at the pup.
They're basically small versions of the adults.
Little deer rabbits.
Yeah, and they're scruffy. So adults hate PTA meetings, and they avoid each other when they're at the burrows. When they're at the nursery burrows, they'll wait for one to come and find their pup and then leave, and then they'll show up and call out to the... So this is easier for the parents because I guess it's easier to, like, all right, I'm finding one or two, well, and then this person's not also looking, and the kids are not getting distracted by different possible... Because we all look the same right now.
What's more like, well, those are the Andersons. Those guys are Steelers fans.
Yeah. So they'll approach, call out, the babies come out. Moms will give them a sniff and only give milk to the ones that smell like hers. Other hungry pups may approach different parents in the hopes of a meal and get batted away. Communal burrows for adults and babies increase survival rates, but pups in large groups have a high likelihood of making it to adulthood. Despite this, Maras are near threatened because they're hunted for their furs. Their furs apparently make good bedspreads.
You would need quite a few Maras to make a bedspread out of this.
Yeah. They're 3 feet long.
Yeah.
So you just... Probably like 6.
For like a queen?
Not necessarily a queen. Maybe only singles. but 3 is like a decent amount. It's not like mink coats. Minks are like tiny little rodents. Or maybe weasels. What's a mink? I think it's a weasel.
Maybe we should do the mink next.
It's a woozle. But I just like the idea of, like, we should do that. Like, parents should have kids buy the house next door, pad it up, nothing sharp. You go live in that house. We'll come over to feed you. It's probably... Those burrows, there's crayon on the walls. There's toys everywhere.
Some of the kids are dead. They've established a hierarchy. One of them is the Dawn.
Yeah. It's like the kindergartners from Recess.
Yeah. You don't mess with them. They're like a tribe. They're like a tribe.
Yeah.
They're feral.
Yes. They're like the Lost Boys in there. All right, that's what I got.
Well, so you've talked a lot about smelling. So let's talk about some scents.
Well, that makes sense.
All right, here's the disclaimer for you children out there, for you parents with small children. We're about to talk a lot about pee. We're about to talk a lot about poop. I'm going to say some words. One of those words or phrases being anal digging. Say it more than once, so be prepared. There's no skipping ahead. This is the end of the episode for those who are squeamish. It's actually not super bad, but I just want to make sure that I know there are young children who listen to this show.
Yeah.
So if they're not ready to hear anal digging, they just heard it.
If you're also an adult who thinks that's gross, I'd also want to move on to next week's episode.
All right. Bye. Just kidding, I'm right here. Even though I think it's gross. So let's talk about the major fact. The Mara uses its urine and secretions from its anal gland to communicate with its mate and other members of the species.
So far, we're not in uncharted waters.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this with the binturong.
And we promised the collared pika that we would talk about other animals' cloacas.
That's true.
So lots of mammals mark their territories. I've got 2 dogs, and they mark their territory all the time. They communicate pretty extensively through their urine. Like a dog will walk up and smell a hydrant or a bush or something and be able to tell the age, the sex, and the health status, and sometimes even like parts of the diet just from their pee.
I wonder if dogs can tell if you're sick from like when you pee.
The way your bathroom smells.
Yeah.
Probably. They have very, very good schnozzes. And
Yes.
they can smell individual ingredients instead of whole things. So you smell like, oh, that's pancakes. They smell eggs and flour and whatever else goes in pancakes. Sugar.
Wow.
Syrup? I think that's it.
Would that be better or worse?
It depends on what you have to do.
Yeah, I guess.
Depends on if your job required you to find like an escaped convict. And you smell all these things, but you want to zero in on that escaped convict.
Quick
smell.
side note: the way dogs find things, the way they train them to find things, specifically drug sniffing dogs. I'm not sure about the convict thing, but specifically drug sniffing dogs is that they train them by making, like, if you want to have a dog just that smells cocaine, finds cocaine in like airports, you will have their toy and like covered in cocaine, and then like, I'm assuming wash it off, but just leaving the scent behind so they're not, getting cocaine.
They don't, like, you have to grab it right before they get to it.
You're right. So they make their favorite toy smell like cocaine, and then they hide it, and then they find the toy. So whenever you see a dog in the airport, he's looking for his toy.
Yeah.
Isn't that adorable?
It's also sad because if no one's trying to smuggle anything, he's just looking for his toy that will never come.
It's worse when he finds it, because everyone yells and tackles him, and you never get your toy.
He probably gets his toy
Eventually.
after they've tackled the
I'm
guy.
sure, like, at the end of the day, he gets his toy. He hard-earned, he cracks open a cold one with the boys and chews on that toy.
It is nice to know that dogs that are working, in their minds, they're playing.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so back to the Patagonian Mara. So they, like I said, lots of mammals mark their territory. But this is a weird one. The Mara is monogamous, like we talked about. They mate for life.
Mm-hmm.
But the male is responsible for making sure that the relationship doesn't fall apart. Like you said, the female will just forget that she's in a relationship and wander off. And so he is responsible for sticking around with her, following her around places, and making sure no one else tries to steal his girl. So what he'll do is he'll pee on her.
That's one way to do it.
So she's just kind of like hanging out there, laying on the ground. He'll hike up and pee all over her rump. is what it said on the internet.
Okay.
And if he's the male for her, if he's the Mara for her, she'll be fine with it. If he's not, then she'll spray pee back into his face.
Okay.
To be like, hey, well, I ain't your lady.
If I was a male Mara, I'd hit and run.
Yeah.
Drive by.
But you wouldn't get the same saturation levels as
true.
someone who is really dedicated to it. So another thing that the male does is wherever she is feeding, he will create this mobile, like, circle around her of territory. His territory moves wherever she is, so that other males don't show up. So the way he does this is, I mean, he'll pee on stuff, but he'll also sit on the ground, specifically so that his rectum is against the ground, and he'll kind of drag it around the circle in places.
Is that what dogs do?
This is called anal digging.
Gotcha.
So he's leaving the scents that come out of there around in a circle around her, and then she probably moves like 10 feet over, and he's like, I gotta do this again? I'm out. I'm dry.
Hold on.
I'm spent, woman.
Let me eat some fiber. So, is this what dogs do when they're like rubbing on carpets?
I think they're just trying to clean themselves.
That's what I thought, because they don't have Charmin Ultra. So, I imagine that
Bears do.
Yeah.
Bears definitely have Charmin Ultra. You'll never catch a bear doing this.
No, they just scratch on trees.
Not their butts. Their backs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so every time she moves, he's got to recreate this mobile zone of just fragrance, just beautiful odors.
He creates a perimeter.
Yeah. So, and they'll also pee on their children. And that's how they know.
Gotcha.
They'll sniff and be like, this is my child because it smells like my pee.
Good, because when I was reading, it just said they'd smelled for their kids. And I'm like, I guess all kids smell different.
Nope, all kids smell like pee, but only one kid smells like your pee. Take that to heart.
I'm imagining they're peeing in their like Lost Boys den too. I'm surprised it doesn't get all muddled. Guess their snouts are that good.
Yeah, they have very, very highly developed sensory organs, especially olfactory ones.
Gotcha.
I don't know. We've been doing a lot of like the best this sense. So like the star-nosed mole, and it's tactile, and then
The bear in its nose.
oh, the bear's nose is really good. I don't know if this is better than a bear's snout.
It might be. Well, we don't know, because we know the bear is good at smelling things from far away, but we don't know if he's good at detecting things. You know?
He just knows there's a smell over there.
Yeah, and it smells like food.
Yeah. So he's got distance.
Yeah, and like through objects somehow,
and through water and
ice and cars.
It's like he can smell a picnic basket that is under a lake that is frozen over.
Yeah.
In a car that's under a lake that's frozen over.
If you're a bear on keto, that stinks. In more ways than one. You can smell all the good pastries.
But imagine having that, like, schnoz, and then just everyone's anal digging around you. Just everywhere. So you're just like, I'm going to cover the ground with my pee. If you're interested.
That's the worst. Well, dogs eat gross food. Rodents are into gross things. I'm assuming they're okay with it.
Yeah, they probably don't care. They probably like it.
They know no other way.
Unless you present them with some Febreze.
Yeah.
Maybe a Yankee Candle.
Well, like cats spray. Did you know that? Like a skunk?
I did know that.
But they don't. When they're like most pets don't. So we show them another way.
No, well, cats who are sick will spray all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so welcome to the Patagonian Mara's butt life. That's what it has as a bumper sticker on the back of its Ford F-150.
Yeah.
Butt, and then just a little round circle, and then life. So for you out there in Podcastia, be monogamous. Take care of your family. But try not to pee on your loved ones like the Patagonian Mara in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
That's good advice.
Wow, glad that's over. The Patagonian Mara is pretty nasty, but we can learn a thing or two from it, can't we? For example, you can mark your mobile territory with interesting animal facts. Let your friends, family, and coworkers smell the glorious stench of your animal knowledge. If they ask you where you learned your stuff, you send them here to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. On the other hand, if they ask you to take a shower, you may reek of something other than knowledge. In either case, spread the word, leave a review, and definitely shower. See you next week.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
But when everything out there wants to steal your girl or eat her for lunch, you need to take drastic measures or you're in for a rough surprise here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
I get it. Urine.
I'm trying here.